It's a blazing hot afternoon at 1 o'clock Filipino time. It's time for another educational webinar series. Participants, get packed as we explore the importance of strategic lesson planning and its impact on academic performance. Headed by the College of Teacher Education, College Student Government, and supported by the College of Teacher Education faculty and staff and students across 8 accredited academic organizations, and given this second day of May 2023 live on Zoom, this is Strategic Lesson Planning, the key to unlocking your teaching potential. Again, I am Christine Nicole Idana, your CTE-CSG Secretary, your Master of Ceremony. Now, without any further delay, we would like to start this program with an opening prayer and to be followed by the singing of our national anthem and university hymn.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today to praise and worship you and give you thanks for all the things you continue to provide for ourselves and our families. Father, we humbly ask for forgiveness for all the times you have offended you. Continue to guide and protect us, Lord. Bestow upon us your unending grace and healing, that we may in turn become instruments of gentleness and compassion to others. We ask all this in the name of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, with prayer and intercession of our Blessed Mother. Amen.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma iyyaka na'bud wa iyyaka nasta'in. Allahumma hadina as-siratal mustaqim. اللهم وحد صفوفنا بين المسلمين والنصارى واللوماد إلى صراطك المستقيم. اللهم امنحهم العيش بالأمن والسلامة والتنمية المستدامة في مدينة دافاو. اللهم لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amoy nen manama kami gimot tolangon, manotod kakaroson no. Sikoy-ikaw kaming dokul tolangon, huway migtumpi to tano. Sikoy-ikaw kaming bohoy to kopianan tolangon na maoto. Pusako kapusuno, kana akong to pabulos koy. O agbuyo ko ikaw, huway bohoy kat pabor, kahalaan, kalinaw, to kanami. No pag-ugpo, huway kasabok ako'y oyot kalambo. Kay kuro tamana kakodin panubado ay pag-ampo, kaupianan igboy no, way kakoy kong imono, way kahalaan ko lang.
Bayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisingil. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simuya, sa langit mamagha, may dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng matawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning, ang bituin at araw niyang kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng wala di pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya ng pagmay mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. to thy heart, seeking the wisdom thy knowledge thou hast to offer to young and seasoned alike. Heavenly faith in thee will never cease to sing, that thy name shall always ring with glory. Honor to you and our alma mater dear, University of Mindanao. Ang nagayuan sa timog Mindanao, gabay ka sa aming mga kabataan. Talag-talig ay talingot karunungan, sa iyo ay makakamtan. Mananalig sa iyo ay di magbabago, mamahalin namin ang ipangalan mo. Dakilang UM ang alma mater ko, Universidad ng Mindanao.
Excellences, honorable guests, CTE Blazing Wolves, good afternoon. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our ever-supportive Dean, Ma'am Jocelyn B. Bacasmot, and as well as our program head, Sir Joey C. Oliveros, BSED Program Head, Ma'am Charmaine B. Banyas, BSNAD BSED Program Head, Sir Junal J. L. Versano, BPE Program Head, and to all our faculty staff who are here with us today. I would like also to acknowledge the presence of the participants coming from different academic organizations. All right, so I believe everyone is very eager to hear our guest speaker this afternoon. But what if we start this with a roll call? Are you ready? All right, so I guess everyone is ready. So once the name of your organization is called, I am encouraging you to send any reaction that would represent your mood right now using our Zoom reactions button, or you can type it on the chat box. Okay. So make some noise. Alliance of Special Needs and Early Childhood Education in University of Mindanao, or also known as ASNISUM. Naa ba itong mga ASNISUM dire? Alright, so parang wala pa ko'y nakita. Where are you, ASNISUM? Ayun. Alright, can I hear you scream? Association of Generalist Teachers, AGEN. Ayun, shout out from Lacre Sherlyn May. We have also from Sir Albarando Mariano. Okay, break the silence. Empowered Language and Literature Teachers Society Elites. We have the elites here. Okay, we have Sir Bato. Ayun, nawala na siya. Ayun. We have also Deniaga Nadia. Okay, hindi naman magpapahuli ang mga ilustrado. Ayun, we have from Sultan Nadra. We have also here Sir Babaw Joby. Okay, mag-ingay, samahan ng mag-aral sa Filipino sa MAPIL. Ayun, from Caceres, Rubian. What about University of Mindanao Teacher College Mathematics Society, UMTCMS? Mga tikoy na to dira. Na ba itong mga tikoy? Mga tikoys? Okay, I guess wala sila, no? Kay ang mga 4th year sa ilaha kay ga-review. Oy, naisa. Si Sir Oldarbe Chris Aldwin. Good afternoon, sir. Okay, what about the University of Mindanao United Physical Educators, UMFED? Hindi magpaulahi ang mga UMFED. Ay, ma'am pala. Sorry, sorry po. Do we have BP students here? Nabatay mga BP students dire? Okay, murag wala na ni Maho ang chat box, no? Okay, basi na nga tulog ang mga BP students. Ting tulog ba karon no? Okay, moving forward. Okay, the last but definitely not the least, Young Educators Association for Science and Technology. Mga yes. Ayun, from Bermudez Jazindale. We have also from Sir Rex Arbert, dapat na po. We have also from Sir Carl Tampalanon, and for Bermudez Jazindale. Hi ma'am, hello po. Okay, I would like also to acknowledge the presence of our participants coming from different schools, all the way from Laguna and Cavite City. Do we have participants from other schools ba? Okay, I guess wala pa siguro sila. So in the name of the College of Teacher Education, College Student Government, it is our pleasure to welcome you to the third webinar session of Edu Kumustahan 2023, a joint program for mental health awareness and educational webinar series. Again, this is Strategic Lesson Planning, the key to unlocking your teaching potential. Moving right along, behind the brilliance of the student tree, there is a great and dynamic leader. And one of the alphas in the pack who's continuously leading the student body. We are pleased to have our very own treasurer, Mr. John Darrell L. Idyong, for his opening remarks. A round of virtual applause, please.
Thank you, Press Secretary Christine. To the Dean of the College of Teachers Education, Dr. Jocelyn B. Bacasmot, to the program heads, starting with our BSED program head, Sir Joey C. Oliveros, our BSNED, BCED, BEd program head, Ma'am Charmaine V. Banyes, our BP program head, Sir Junald Versano, to our fellow aspiring educators, to our distinguished guests, our guest speaker, and to the esteemed faculty members of the CTE of the University of Mindanao, good afternoon. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to the third webinar of Edu Kamustahan 2023, a joint program for mental health awareness and educational webinar series with our evolving theme, expanding support for students' mental health and excellence in educational context. As educators, we are entrusted with the responsibility to provide quality education to our students, but we cannot overlook the importance of supporting their mental health as well. This is why our joint program aims to raise awareness and equips educators with the necessary tools to create a conducive learning environment that prioritizes both academic and excellence and mental well-being. Today's webinar will focus on the significance of strategic lesson planning in achieving this goal. It is not only about having a well-structured lesson plan, but also about utilizing the appropriate teaching strategies and considering the individual needs and learning styles of each student. We have an esteemed speaker who will share his expertise on this topic and provide us with practical tips and strategies to maximize the learning potential of our students. We hope that through this webinar, we can all gain valuable insights and practical knowledge that we can apply in our respective teaching practices. Together, let us continue to expand our support for students' mental health and strive for excellence in education. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy today's webinar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Treasurer. And now, to start off with this exciting part of our webinar, let me call in our CTE-CSG Elites representative, no other than Miss Jackie B. Cagutom to introduce our guest speaker this afternoon.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Jack.
Oh, all right. So, greetings, everyone. So, our speaker for today's webinar is a licensed professional teacher, an IELTS examination supervisor, and a freelancer rolled into one. With 11 years of experience in the academe and examination proctoring, he finished his degree course in secondary education, majoring in English at Holy Cross Davao College, and completed his academic requirements with an ongoing thesis writing in Master of Arts in Educational Management at the University of Immaculate Conception. Presently, he is a senior high school teacher too at the Bernardo Di Carpio National High School in Davao City. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our valued speaker, Mr. Emir Arvin Rasgo. Let's give him a massive round of applause, please.
Hi, can everyone see me? Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Hi. Yes, hi. There. Finally, I can see myself. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my name is Senior Arvin Rasco. I'll be your speaker for this afternoon. And first of all, I would like to. I'm extending my appreciation to the University of Mindanao College of Teacher Education for reaching out to me, and having been considered as speaker is already an honor, and being selected as a speaker uh, already is a huge deal for me. So yeah, hopefully I'd be able to impart something to every one of you to this afternoon. And yeah, if you have questions, though, please reserve your questions after the presentation, as I'll try to answer all of those later once I'm done with the presentation. All right, is everyone ready to listen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, very participative. Yes, I can feel the participation of the audience. Yes, thank you so much for that response. All right. Without much ado, let me just present my screen now. Oh, I look so good. There. How are they? Desktop one. All right, I'm still trying to figure out how to do this up there. Um, Excuse me for a while. I need to restart my Zoom, as my system is not letting me show my presentation. It'll be real quick. Give me a moment. You are all seeing my screen. Hold on. How do I do this? Ah, there. Finally. And are you all seeing my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Great. So apparently I'm not really used to holding seminars online. There, I think this is way better. Um, also, just so you know, I am not using PowerPoint for this presentation. I use Gamma. So it's a totally different thing. So I'm also new to it. But anyway, here it is. There. So strategic lesson planning, the key to unlocking your teaching potential. All right. Where's my spotlight? There. And so what are we gonna discuss this afternoon? Basically, it's strategic lesson planning. To give you a very quick idea what lesson planning is, let me just turn off this spotlight. It's going beyond traditional lesson planning. I know that you've already experienced, if not crafted, your own lesson plan. As I'm not sure. Am I talking to third year college students or second year college students? Anyhow, I assume that as early as second year college, you're already taught on how to craft a lesson plan, and you sometimes get overwhelmed with a lot of the lesson plans that our teachers would introduce. Like during my time, we don't even have the 4 A's and the 7 E's. We crafted a very basic lesson plan. By basic, I'm referring to the format, the detailed, semi-detailed, and the short lesson plan that you usually make. But anyhow, let's try to get to know more about lesson planning this afternoon. All right, so going beyond traditional lesson planning, strategic lesson planning is a deliberate approach to designing lessons that align with curriculum standards, and this promotes student learning and achievement. It's very important that the lesson plan that you craft is aligned with the curriculum standards. Now, you may be wondering where we would get those curriculum standards. DepEd actually gave a PDF file. It's not gave, but it's a file available for download on the internet, so you can actually get that one. But I'm just gonna share it to you instead. Where is it? Here. Are you all seeing this? Or are you still on the strategic lesson plan? Currently, I'm showing you the PDF for all the curriculum in DepEd. Are you seeing
Still on the
under
presentation, sir.
planning, sir.
the presentation? Hold on. So apparently, I'm not used to using this. There. There. So this is the MELCs. You may be wondering what MELCs is, or most essential learning competency. Anyone who's already familiar with MELCs? I would like to hear from you guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So during the pandemic, they've crafted this one. They eliminated those subjects or content that are not. It's not that it's not necessary, but contents that can be eliminated or could be integrated to other subjects. So as such, they produced this one. So from kindergarten to senior high school, they've listed everything here. And since I'm in senior high school, I usually go directly to page 500 something. There. So that's a lot of scrolling up. Now, whenever you craft your lesson plan, or when you're hired by DepEd, it really depends on the school if they would require you to submit a lesson plan. if you were to present a lesson like a demonstration, then you ought to use a lesson plan for that. However, if you're submitting a lesson plan to your master teacher, then we're actually allowed to just use the DLL, that stands for daily lesson log. So currently we are using DLL, not the lesson plan, but at the end of the day, it's still the same. The DLL is just like a lesson plan, although they laid out the lesson from day 1 to day 4. It's good for a week. And there is senior high core subjects. All right, going back. Now, the focus on strategic lesson planning is the intentional approach to planning. Whenever you craft a lesson plan, there should be an intention to really think of what the students will be learning. So you have to keep the objective in mind instead of just thinking of what activity to do. And alignment, I've already talked about that one. Promote student learning. How can you encourage them to learn? Especially kids nowadays, they tend to have a very short attention span. And there's this theory that the attention span of students is their age divided by 2. So most of my students in senior high school are around 17 or 18. So their attention span is around 9 minutes, 8 minutes at most. So you have to make sure that within that span of time, you're able to get their attention. So the challenge is on how to get that attention in that minimum amount of time. And then deliberate and intentional approach. This is more on really seeing if this lesson plan is working, especially with the kind of model that you've employed in crafting it. All right, so let's start with this one. I'm not sure, but I think you're all familiar with understanding by design. This is a model of lesson planning in which you first identify the end goal. So you need to know your objectives. Of course, when crafting objectives, you know that it should follow Bloom's taxonomy. I mean, that's basic, right? So the question now is on how to execute that one. So there, you need to consider the evidence. How do you measure learning? If say your lesson is about what's my lesson right now? About Filipino social thinkers. Now, how do you know that the students are learning? Sometimes you would just give them formative assessments, like a very easy way of assessing students is by giving formative assessments. But sometimes you get to be creative, you get to form them into groups and have them report. But if I'm the student and the teacher will just tell me to report about this, I find that so boring. So what I usually do in my class is that they're already grouped. And most of the time we play a group quiz. What is a group quiz? It's like a game show. What I usually do in my class is that at the start, like from the very start of meeting these students, I would already arrange them in a seat plan alphabetically, and they're divided into 6 groups. And they have to think of a team name for their group, something that wouldn't get me into jail, of course, but they could be very creative. And seeing them thinking of even the team names alone makes you realize that these students just wanted to be heard. They have something in mind, it's just that they don't know how to express it. So whenever you try to ask them like tell them to think of a team name, they get so creative, sometimes obscene. If it's obscene, then of course I call their attention. But It shows their creativity and the way they answer those questions, because it's like a game show type. You get to see them eager into answering the questions instead of just subjecting them to a quiz and seeing them cheat from one classmate to another. In the group quiz, in my group quiz, they actually have their power ups and all. So it's very interactive. So now, how do I know if they're able to get or grasp what I'm teaching? Of course, my questions would be related to the topic. But I don't usually do that like at the end of the class. No, it's more of a summative. Like at the end of the chapter, we'd have a group quiz. So yeah. And then design learning experiences that promote student understanding and transfer of knowledge. Um, Most of you, I'm not sure, but during my time when I was deployed for my field study back in Holy Cross, we didn't really have an observation period. What teachers usually do, our cooperating teachers, would give us they would give us a lesson and let us teach it to the students. So I know that's unfair on my part because that's what FS2, and I was already a practicumer. But that gave me an idea on the kind of teaching or learning style kids at that time have. Internet wasn't really, I mean, internet was there. We are using internet. Facebook was already there, but not everyone has access to it. Not everyone has a smartphone that they could just check regularly. So kids at that time were more, how do you call this? Has a lot of misbehaving. They're not really interested with the lesson, especially when someone is simply just talking in front, and especially if that someone is speaking English, but like what I'm doing right now. But I'm sorry. I guess I have to deliver it in English, but later probably I use the vernacular. Anyhow, so the students are not really engaged with the lesson. So how do you get their attention? Let's find out. All right. But anyway, that is understanding by design. The very essence of understanding by design, or the model understanding by design, is identifying the end goal. That's what you have to keep in mind. Next, this is the 4A model, which I am sure you're all familiar. During my time, like I said, we don't have the 4A model, we just have the regular lesson planning. So this is when I got myself into DepEd back in 2017. This is it's quite foreign for me that they would ask me to craft a lesson plan using the 4A model. But at the end of the day, it's just the same bananas. They're simply telling me to do something like what I usually did back in college and when I was already in Assumption. That's the same thing. I just need to change the names of some activities into the 4A model. So I don't really understand why they have to just change everything. But later on, I realized that it's important to really identify the parts of a lesson plan where you can execute something, like when you elicit responses, especially soliciting whether they already know the lesson or not, that it should really always be at the start of the lesson, at the middle of the lesson. So that is where the elicit part, which I will discuss later for the 7 E's model. And anyway, for the 4A models, it always starts with the aim. So setting clear and measurable objectives. You're all familiar with SMART, right? What the SMART stands for, anyone? The SMART objectives. You. Anyone? There. Where is my chat? There. Finally. There. So you've been responding to me all this time pala. I didn't even know. All right, so it stands for specific, measurable, achievable. Achievable pala na sa inyo. Attainable sa amin. Opo. Attainable, relevant, and time-bounded. Yeah. Attainable po. But, yeah, again, it's the same bananas. Anyhow, yeah, so your objective should be SMART so that you'd know if you're able to achieve that objective at the end of the day or at the end of the lesson or not. Although there are lessons that that couldn't really end for a day alone, that should have been a week or a month, you can always include that. But see to it that at the end of, say, that month, you reflect whether the students were really able to meet the objectives or not. Next is analyze. Analyze students' needs and teaching strategies. So, of course, Howard Gardner, the 9 intelligences. So back in our day, it's way easy to just call someone stupid or a folly if they're not good in math. I, for one, everyone, I suck at math. So that's my weakness. But I excel in language. So but I grew up thinking that I'm a stupid kid because I suck at math. But then when I got myself in college, I realized that there are actually different intelligences. And as a teacher, you have to consider that not everyone are language learners. Not everyone are into arithmetic. Others may not even be into the academe, but they are into the experiential type of learning. Others are, what are the 9 intelligence again? I forgot the kinesthetic. So sometimes we're too judgmental saying na, how siya musayaw pero Earth man siya. Huwag naman tayong ganon. You have to consider that there are people who excels on these things while others excel on other things. So you have to consider that. But you know, in the Philippine setting, that becomes a challenge. Do we have students here who had their OJT already, assigned in a public school? And if so, please tell me how many students are packed inside a classroom. Yes, Neilbert. How many students do you have in the classroom? 50.
40 to 50 students, sir. There are sections that more than 40 and there are more than 50.
Oh my God, you're so lucky to even have 40 to 50 students. My advisory class is 60 students. And I'm already lucky to have 60 students because others have 65 to 68. So it becomes challenging considering that you have to keep in mind these different personalities into your teaching. Not everyone would participate and not everyone would appreciate your lesson, no matter how you try to localize your teaching or indigenize your teaching. Still, there are students who just doesn't want to listen. I always wonder why. For them, because I'm teaching social sciences right now, understanding culture, society, and politics. And whenever I discuss my lesson, there are a lot of students, especially those who are in front, who are interested with the lesson. but those at the back tend to not listen. Keep in mind that this is a student of 82, a class of 82 students. So it's like two classrooms merged into one, and you have to discuss that one, the lesson to them. These are TVL students, technical vocational textbook students. I'm teaching social science. Something they what they always rebut would be, sa manamo na sir na di manamo na magamit sa among pagtrabaho. So how did I try to not attend, but try to find a solution to that kind of thinking? You know, you have to really instill to them that what they're doing right now inside the classroom is a reflection of how they will be when they work. Because when you're inside the classroom is like a miniature simulation of the real world, and you can see the attitudes of the students right now. You can somehow predict that this would be the same attitude that they will have when they start working. And I actually have classmates who were like that. It's not a telltale sign, of course, not an ironclad rule, but most of the time, my guess is correct. So you have to correct them as early as now that, okay, fine, you don't want to listen, but remember, 10, 20 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised. I was discussing about wages at that time. 10 or 20 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised to see you in City Hall. You're already working in City Hall, but you are not a regular employee. You're a job order. Because and you would be wondering why until now you're a job order. Your status is on job order, not a regular employee, because you never listen. So you have to you really have to instill to them that the lessons you're having would be relevant to them in the future. Mathematics. Sometimes I wonder, when I was in high school, I don't understand why I would use algebra. I mean, where would I use algebra in the future? There's a calculator anyway. I can always use the calculator. But then now I realize that there are times in which, especially when you're handling your finances and you're trying to get some, say, percentage, or you're looking for that missing value, that algebra could be useful. For those who are interested in probably who's looking into the degree of engineering or other courses or degrees that are heavy in mathematics, they may appreciate math. I, for one, have started to appreciate math when I took the civil service exam, because my highest score for civil service is in math, not in English, where I thought I would excel in. So you see, what I like about math is that 1 plus 1 will always be 1 plus 1. Language, on the other hand, English, is very dynamic. Anyway, implement the lesson plan, of course, and assess, evaluate students' learning, and adjust the lesson plan as needed. Now, we used to use 4A model for lesson planning, but right now we were taught to use 7E. Okay, but before we proceed with 7E, let's have the 5E model. Basically, 5E is engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. Engage, capture students' interest and curiosity. Explore hands-on experience, explain, provide explanation, elaborate, provide opportunities, and evaluate, assess student learning. So you see, it's like it's still the same lesson plan. But they realize that they have to add 2 more content. Thus, we have 7 E's there. Elicit. Elicit is simply tapping on students' prior knowledge, their schema, or recapitulating yesterday's lesson. When I start my lesson, I usually ask my students if they have an idea on something that's relevant to the lesson. Say earlier, my topic was about Filipino social thinkers, and Rizal was mentioned, was one of the figures in the lesson. So I asked them, any one of you here who's wondering why you have Rizal as a subject in college? Because I taught Rizal back in Assumption. And that was when I learned that there's an RA for that. So I always tell everyone that, yeah, we don't have a choice. We need to discuss Rizal because there's a Republic Act that states that we need to study the life and works of Rizal. But then later on, I realized I was a fan of Bonifacio. But then when I started teaching Rizal, I learned and I realized that if it's not for Rizal's writing, Bonifacio wouldn't be inspired with whatever it is that with all his endeavors. So it was actually Rizal who became a catalyst for that. Now, as a social thinker, Rizal was actually thinking of the society more than trying to just find a band-aid solution about what's happening. So I realized the importance of Rizal. So I tried asking them, not really tried, I really asked them earlier if they have any idea why Rizal is a subject in college, why Rizal is the front runner for the national hero title of the Philippines. And I always ask them on who they think should be the national hero. Would it be Rizal or Bonifacio? So it's my way of tapping to their schema if they already know about the writings and the influence of Rizal during his era. And then I realized that they were senior high school students. So one student actually responded that we don't know, sir. We're not yet in college. So I really thought that they have an idea that Rizal. So I just told them that, well, Rizal is a subject in college that you have to take up. But then I asked him the second question, who should be our national hero? Should it be Rizal? And that was when I got more responses from more students, thereby telling me that these students have different perspective on things. Others would say that it should be Rizal because of this and that. And usually these others who says it's Rizal are the more diplomatic ones, while the others would say Bonifacio are the ones who's more abrasive. Abrasive, not abusive. More direct to the point. There. Now, after you elicit from the students, then you'll already capture their interests. It's very important to make sure that you hold their interests from that moment up to the next 10 minutes, because that's the time. I mean, that's the time in which they're very much willing to listen. So after catching their interest, I would be under engage, you explore. Provide hands-on experience to promote inquiry and exploration. If you're into language, say, what are lessons in English about? Can I have anyone tell me a lesson in English? Let's say, no, I don't want aspects of grammar. Something that has something to do with the suprasegmental features of language. Okay, pragmatics. Okay, so say pragmatics. How can you start pragmatics or suprasegmental features, which is under pragmatics, to your students? You have to ask them if they already know what pragmatics are. So basically, this is the utterances, like the meaning behind the utterances. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it? Because I know pragmatics, It's more on the meaning behind the utterances, the intonations and all. And suprasegmental features would fall under that. Am I correct, anyone? Or have you tapped on linguistics? Or is linguistics still a major subject in college? Prosody. Yeah. Oh, it is. Okay. So this would fall under speech features such as stress tone. Exactly. Yeah. I remember my lesson in linguistics. Linguistics is that lesson which I fear the most back in college, but I really had no choice but to teach to my students when I was a teacher in Assumption, because I was also a college teacher back then, and one major subject is linguistics. So it was challenging. Like whenever I teach linguistics, I really need a book as my reference. But yeah, going back. So you have to ask them about pragmatics, and then before introducing suprasegmental features of language and how it affects the meaning of a sentence based on the context and based on the stresses where it falls in the sentence. So after which, because we're talking English now, you let them do it on their own. You give them a hands-on experience, like let them craft a sentence, assuming that this is not the sentence is this is not my bag, and then let them explain to see if they really has grasped your lesson or not. Now, elaborate is when you try to correct whether they committed a mistake during the explanation, or affirm that what they how they explain their explanation is correct. I'm gonna show you later an example for this. And then after which, evaluation and then extend. Extend is providing opportunities for students to apply their learning in real world context. Now, this is quite challenging because, you know, we were told not to give assignments to students, but this really doesn't have to be an assignment, but rather an activity, not limited to individually. It could be a group activity as well. Okay. Now, this is an example of, where was that? The 7Es format. There. Can you see the 7Es format? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Apologies. Yeah, so basically this is like a lesson plan, or this is a lesson plan, but it's good for a week. So this is how we do it in DepEd. So of course, whenever you do the content standards, I'm not sure if you were taught it this way, but my practice is to always use the one found on the MELCs. So whenever you write content standard, you include, like, let me give you this one instead, like this. There. You include the competencies, the numbers, something that you need to make sure that it is present on your DLL or lesson plan. I think you were not able to see that. There, you have to include the codes. Content standards and performance standards are found on the MELT. So there's something that you don't have to think about. If, say, your lesson is about, I don't want to talk about science, personal development. So for content standard, you just need to add the learns, demonstrate the understanding of, and then him, herself. And then when you get to the learning competency part, you add the codes. Do you have access on this, or does everyone have an access to this PDF file? Way before I showed it to you today. Yes. Yeah, I suppose that's a yes. So do you also do this? You're already familiar with this part? Anyone? In the internship? Hold on. Well, what about that time in which you were told to make a lesson plan before your internship? Because definitely in your major subjects, you were asked to make a lesson plan about something. Did you make sure, or did you align your objectives to the DepEd lesson plan or the DepEd most essential learning competencies? Oh, very good. Yes. Ano dapat? Oh, yes. You should always base it on the CG. All right. So going back, not that one here. Okay, there are a lot of screens that are open right now. I have to check if I'm on the right page. Not this one. There. Here, are you seeing this this grades 1 to 12 daily lesson log on your end right now?
Yes po, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I'm not really good with sharing. I'm not really that experienced with using Zoom because, you know, during the pandemic we were taught to use Google Meet, not Zoom. Back then, I was really hoping to use Zoom because of all the features. But anyway, so there are performance standards and then learning competencies. Of course, learning resource, references, palabo. There, procedure. First is elicit. So reviewing previous lesson or presenting the new lesson, basically recapitulating yesterday's lesson. So because this is a DLL, what you would write here on your day 2 would be your lesson yesterday. So same thing. So what your lesson here basically would be a question that's relevant. You'll be writing something or asking something, a question that's relevant to your lesson yesterday or from day 1. And then engage, establishing a purpose for the lesson. So outline the lesson objectives to give the students an idea of what they will learn. Now, sometimes this is effective. Sometimes I tell my students on what the objectives of the lesson is, but most of the time I don't, because I want an authentic response, a genuine response from the students. When you tell them what are expected from them, they either try to meet that expectation or they do their best not to meet the expectation. So to eliminate that variable, I just don't tell them the lesson. But I see to it, or I try to assess whether they learned the lesson or not through the evaluation. But anyway, so this is presenting the topic of biomolecules, focus on the lesson, describe the structure, and so on. So you're not really limited to just outlining the lesson objectives here. And when I had my demonstration teaching, I also did not do that because, like I said, I want an authentic response, not an artificial response from the students, simply because they know what was expected from them. And then engage. So presenting examples, instances of the new lesson. So here, you can already start employing different activities or the different activities that you've learned over the years. I mean, if I have to share my activities in this seminar, then I think I wouldn't be able to fit all those activities in 2 hours. So that deserves a separate discussion or a separate seminar. But anyway, so presenting examples, instances of the new lesson. This is not yet presenting the lesson, keep in mind. And then explore. This is discussing the new concepts. So briefly, how structures molecules. Sometimes, it's not sometimes, but for the 21st century learners, you have to consider that these are people or these are kids who doesn't want to listen. These are kids who just want to do things. Like I said, their attention span is half their age. So as much as possible, you give them an explanation as briefly as possible, and then you let them do things. Because most of the time, they're more interested in learning, in doing and learning by doing, instead of learning by just simply listening. Okay, so discussing new concepts, explain, developing masteries leads to a formative assessment. Formative assessment is important, especially if you just simply want to assess whether they have learned or not. You don't have to record the formative assessment. Keep that in mind. Summative assessment, on the other hand, have to be recorded. But with it also depends on you. Because me, honestly, I do record formative assessment for me to see whether the student really has improved or not. You cannot expect, like, how many students do I have? 60 students. That's for my advisory alone. I also handle 6 sections. So are you telling me that I have to like accommodate them one by one? That's what? 6 times 6, 36, 360 students. Imagine. So even I myself couldn't imagine doing that. So yeah. So what I usually do is I give them quizzes, maybe a 10-item quiz at the end of the lesson, or give them an activity. What kind of activity? It really depends on the lesson. I usually don't subject them to role plays, but role plays is something that students actually look forward to. I don't know with you guys. I'm just not very excited when it comes to role plays. I think students are not serious during role plays, but others are also serious. So what I realized is that those people who's not really into role plays are good at something. And those who are good at role plays are really good at role plays. They may have falter on other aspects, but when it comes to role plays, they really embody the role. So it really depends, but most of the time I really don't do role plays. I like doing it my way through quizzes, group quiz, and my quizzes, by the way, is not just a typical quiz. I'm not sure if Jackie has experienced the moving quiz during her time here in Bernardo. Have you experienced that, Jackie? Yes, diba? So but my moving quiz right now has evolved because one thing that I try to eliminate is cheating. I don't want to just call their attention because back in Assumption, I was a terror teacher, by the way, in Assumption. And my policy was that if I catch you cheating, I wouldn't call your name. Instead, I'll just go directly to you, get your paper, and crumple your paper in slow motion. And sadly, there was this student who cheated. So I have no choice. I I got hold of her paper and tear it apart. And then I realized, oh, I'm sorry. I was supposed to crumple it in slow motion. Please go out. Was that a good experience? No. The student did not return for her exam the following afternoon. So I was bothered. Um, so I really tried to find ways on how to on how to eliminate cheating, even if I am not even without my presence. So one thing I realized is moving quiz. So I did a moving quiz, but then others would just wait for the bell to ring and then hurry themselves to ask uh, the the last person what the answer is. So as an added difficulty or to increase the difficulty, ang quiz na ko is by set na siya. So I started with set A, B, C. I also gave them their codes, zip grade codes, and their sets would be determined by their codes. So at first, 3 sets, and then next 5 sets, and then next would probably 10 sets. But out of the 10 sets, only 5 will be would be the sets that they have to answer. So it also comes with experience. When you're in the field and you get to see the students, you get to think of ways on how to make them engage with your lesson and how to uphold integrity in their output. So one way was that. So I don't even call it I call it a moving quiz at first, but next quiz would be the running quiz because I'll hold the quiz in the gym. So they have to and space out the questions that would fill the entire gym. I think I'd be giving them 30 questions that would fill the gym. So they really have to run. Each question is only good for 30 seconds. So they have to run to the next question so that they could still read it. And then, yeah, I just like seeing my students eager to answer. So it gives that certain satisfaction. But yeah, anyhow. So after explaining that, of course, you try to elaborate. You have to also let them when you go up. Sorry, when you do your explanation or when you give your explanation, you give them time to explore it on their own. Maybe ask someone to or solicit from someone. This is the generalization part I remember. To ask someone for a question relevant to your topic or to your lesson. And then if that person gives a wrong answer, ask another one. I don't think that it's right to just shame a person because they gave the wrong answer. All the more they will be demotivated to learn. So do not focus on the mistake of that person. Instead, just ask someone if they know the answer, and if that someone knows the answer, then you just have to reiterate the answer to everyone and to the person that gave the wrong answer, so that the person would also know and put it in his or her heart the correct answer, not just her heart, but his or her brain, what the correct answer is. But to shame someone, when I called the attention of that person who was cheating, I was bugged by my conscience because I shamed her in front of everyone that she cheated. I could have done something. I could have called her attention after the exam. So there's no need for the theatrics or the drama. But I was theatrical back then, so I did that. So that was a mistake. So now when someone cheats, I just tell them that if I catch anyone cheating, everyone will get a 1 point deduction to eliminate cheating. So it really depends. I didn't have that idea before, but then sometimes it depends on the situation, and you just could think of new ideas because of a situation that arise. There, elaborate and then evaluate. You give a short item quiz and then extend additional activities for application or remediation. This could be an activity. You could give them a worksheet for this one. Basically, it's up to you. But keep in mind that the activity or the additional application for or remediation should still be relevant to the topic. My lesson was about Filipino thinkers, and then my assignment to them would be research about feminism. You see, so where's the relevance on that? Why am I searching for feminism? So something that they can still connect with their previous knowledge. Okay. So remarks reflection, you have to fill this one out at the end of the you have to fill this one out after the week. So if this ended on a Friday, then you have to fill this out on a Monday. What our master teacher would always tell us is to submit the DLL for the week and then submit that same DLL the next week with the remarks or the remarks or the reflection part. So the reflection part simply is a number of learners, more on the statistics part of it. Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, it was just recent when we were told to craft a lesson plan using 7 E's. I, for one, don't also use 4 A's because I find it unnecessary to just use a model that's used by everyone. I want to use my own model. Thus, this is my DLL. So there, like I said, all of this will be gathered from MELCS or from the CG. And then establishing a purpose for the lesson. This is the part in which you have to craft your own objectives, but still aligned with the learning competency. So here. If we were to, hold on. Yeah, if we were to change the titles of these bullets, if we pattern it to 7 E's, this part would then now become anyone. The review part will become, remember 7 E's, elicit, correct. So say I change it to elicit. Establishing a purpose for the lesson. This would be Engage. Oh my God, very interactive, you guys. Presenting examples, instances of the new lesson. Explore, yes. So yeah, so basically, like I said, it's the same bananas. They simply just want to change the terms because for them it's very important to define it this way because after all this is what was expected from them. But at the end of the day, class, it's still the same lesson plan. Even if I present this other lesson plan, what was that? So even if I present this one, all I need to do is to just change the bullets. I can always change this one. So you see, it's still the same. There. By the way, this is my lesson plan. I always use this pattern because this is what was taught to us back in college. There. All right. So let's go back to the main slide. So there, elaborate, provide opportunities, evaluate, assess learning, and extend, provide opportunities. All right, so what are the advantages of strategic lesson planning? Number one is aligned with the curriculum. So it's when it's aligned with the curriculum, you can assure that wherever the student would go anywhere in the country, that he will be learning the same thing. It would be his or her learning would be continuous. There are teachers who teach us something that they think is relevant to the lesson, but not in the CG. Please don't be that kind of teacher. It's a waste of time, actually. Because at the end of the day, your curriculum head or your master teacher would still check whether you have followed the CV, the CG, not the CV, the CG or not. Okay. It promotes learning, student learning and achievement, and helps teachers to stay organized and focused on their teaching goals. So of course, we all have our teaching goals, and that is to make this country a better country, one student at a time. As such, how do we make this a better country, one student at a time? By crafting good lesson plan. All right. Yeah, this is what I said earlier. You need to identify clear, measurable learning objective. It should be SMART. Even SMART is a term that's used, it's a jargon in the academe. It's not just in the academe, you guys. In the corporate world, we also use SMART. Yes, because I'm also part of the corporate world when I mentioned that, or yeah, when I do my supervisory tasks in conducting IELTS exam. Anyway, determine acceptable evidence, and there, I already said that. Backward design, this is like UBD. There. Let's not discuss backward design, but instead discuss UBD, understanding by design. Same thing. You need to identify what the objectives are. It's important to know the objectives, like I said, because it's your goal, and if you're able to meet your goal or not. So acceptable evidence and learning experience. In-depth ed for ACAD subjects, yeah, for core subjects, for core subjects, breakdown is 50% performance task. Hold on. But a huge chunk of it. Sorry. a huge chunk of the grading system goes to the performance tasks. So there's 25% for 45% for performance tasks, 25% for written, and then the remaining would be 25% for exam. Hold on. I want to be accurate for this one. What's that sound? %60, no. 40% written, 50% performance, 10% exam. Sad naman. What about you guys? Your class record, how much percentage goes to performance tasks? Yeah, 40%, and then 25% for written for exam, correct? Okay, here in Bernardo class, written is 25% written, 35%, 35%, no, 25% exam, 35% written, and then 40% performance tasks. Yeah. Hold on. Let me check that. Okay. Okay, for core subjects, 25% written, 50% performance tasks, and then 25% quarterly assessment. So that's the exam. Okay. This got all changed during the pandemic, so that's why I'm not really, I tend to forget about it. But anyway, if it's for that's for core subjects. For specialized subjects, 20% written, 60% performance task, 20% quarterly assessment. In other words, they put too much stress on performance tasks because basically DepEd wants students to be doing, to learn by doing things, not just by absorbing it. Way different from how I do things during my time back in high school and elementary, because we're not really taught, or we're not really allowed to do things. We just learn concepts and concepts. Anyway. So this is an example for the 4A model. Lesson on fractions in math. So the aim is to understand the concept of fractions. There. So to analyze analysis of students' needs, the selection of appropriate teaching strategies. Okay, we're teaching fraction now. And student A is not really good in math, but student A is a dancer. So how can a dancer understand the concept of fraction? Anyone? Give me an example. Say, dancer man siya. Wala kay siya kasabot og fraction. So how would you let them what could be something you could give them that they would understand what fraction is? Correct, counting sa steppings. So, di ba dili man daghan matag mga full na ano, you make a full spin. Okay, you make a half spin. Half spin is actually a fraction. That's one half of a circle. Oh my God. Correct. Integration sa fundamental steps of dance. Exactly. So you see, gone are the days in which someone would say na, saan man namo na, sir? Di ba namo na magamit sa mo ang klase? No, you have to instill to them that what they're learning right now is something that they will be able to use in the future. Dili man na mo kinahanglan, sir, how mag-English kung mag-ano mi, mag-butcher mi, ganon. Exactly, pwede po sa beat sa sound. Dili man na mo kinahanglan, sir, mag-ano, how mag-English kung mag-ihaw mi baboy. Dili man na mo kinahanglan, sir, how mag-English kung mag-welding mi. Okay, yeah. But if you're planning to go abroad and your employer would ask you to take the IELTS exam because it's a requirement, and then you wouldn't fail the exam for sure, but you wouldn't get the band score you were aiming for, then how will you be able to go abroad if you don't pass that? Because right now all you think is that man ako magamit the English, so you never know. You might just be able to need what you have learned, what you were supposed to learn in today in the future. Okay, anyway, going back. So mo to siya. And then at implementation of the lesson plan. For this one class, medyo ano lang siya, medyo it's taxing on your part, especially if you consider the different learning styles. But what you can do is that in a lesson, like for today's lesson, you try to focus on those kinesthetic learners. And then next lesson, you try to focus on the visual learners. Instead of just of trying to accommodate all the learning styles, try to accommodate them one lesson at a time. So for today, okay, we will teach because fundamental fractions. Focus nato would be on the kinesthetic learners. Now your next lesson is about binomials. I don't even know what binomials is, but binomials. And then you focus on the visual learners, like that. Definitely, you don't have to focus on the learners who are fond with math. What do you call them again? Those who are good in math. Who are those type of learners? Arithmetic. From Howard Gardner. Anyway, so you don't really have to focus on them because you know that they're good with that. Instead, those who are good with math would be the team leaders for should you decide to make an activity, a group activity for that matter. And then assess, evaluation student understanding through written and oral assessment. Oh. Because you've already assigned those students, those who are good in math, as leaders for those students who are logical mathematical, yes. Because mga logical mathematical naman sila, so they don't really you are confident that they would understand the concept of fractions way faster than those who aren't logical mathematical learners. So you assign them as group leaders, and then don't just let them do the reporting. I'm sorry, but I don't really think that reporting is effective. I think it's a product of a lazy teacher. I usually dominate the discussion in my classroom. I don't subject my students to reporting because at the end of the day, all they do is to. I'm not trying to underestimate my students. Please don't get me wrong. But by experience, most of the time when I tell my students to report about topics, all they do is just read it from their script, which is a bummer for me. So I appreciate those who try their effort in explaining things without the need for a script, but most of the time, if not all of them, would need a script for that, and it's a bummer. You have to consider the type of students that they are. Definitely, those who are bringing scripts are not good with language, because if they are, then they wouldn't be needing a script for that. So so this section is not aren't very good with language. How will I be able to assess them? By subjecting them to another activity, maybe. This section are artistic. Sige. Role play. How can you apply role play in mathematics about fraction? Okay. Then that is where their creative juices would come out. But I doubt if that would ever happen, because again, you have to follow the CG for that. But if you're the type of teachers who are out of the box, then I wouldn't be surprised if you're able to execute that. Upon there. Next, 5E. Okay, now you may be wondering what 5E is. I just learned from my co-teachers, because to be honest, when Jackie reached out to me about the speakership, I was on duty. I was supervising the IELTS examination speaking test for at that time. And then my colleagues were also freelancers, elementary school teachers. So I asked them about the type of lesson plan that they use. In their school, they were not mandated, but their principal have asked them to use 5E for STEM subjects, science and math. For language, like English and Filipino, 4As. But here in Bernardo, our principal has mandated us to use 7Es instead. So like I already crafted a DLL, but I can just change the bullets into patterning the 4As model. But now I have to use the 7Es. But it's not really that difficult anyway, because like I said, it's the same bananas. But yeah, this is a 5E. Wala lang siya elicit and expand. Extend, sorry. Wala siya elicit and extend. But the main or the core components are still there. There. Okay, using the 7E model in Philippine Social Studies lesson on climate change. So this is in the latter part of UCSP. So how could you apply 7E model to your lesson? Okay. So let's discuss climate change. Let's look for the maps on that. Where is the maps? Anyway, let's do it real quick because I think we still need like 30 minutes for the question and answer part. But yeah. So on the illicit part, since we're discussing climate change, what can you suggest on the illicit part, anyone? Again, what is the illicit part? Without showing you what the illicit part is. Anyone? So this is recap of the lesson, okay. And then engage. Capture students' interest by showing them news clip about the impacts of climate change in the Philippines. When I discuss this to my students, I would always ask them, have you noticed how frequent flooding in Davao is now compared to how it was before? Or even you guys, have you noticed that? Like gamay na ulan mo, baha ang bahada. Exactly. Now, did you know that Bahada was once a swampland? Not Bahada per se, Abriza. It was just a swamp. It's a catch basin. But right now, it's a Breeza place. There's a mall littered with condo units, condominium buildings. So where would you expect that water to go? Nowhere. Thus, nabaha jud ang bahada. But is that an impact of global warming? I'm talking about putting up structure in that particular place where it used to be a catch basin. Is that an impact of global warming or not? It's not. However, it is an impact of industrialization. But how can you connect flooding in Davao with global warming? Oh, diba? Anyone, how can you connect the frequent floodings in Davao with global warming? Okay. Now, when someone or when no one of your class or if your students would answer the question, then you answer the question. You don't wait for an hour to get a response. Instead, you help them make a response. So how global warming causes rising sea waters, especially the melting of polar caps, causes the rising sea waters, thereby, sorry. Global warming, the effect of global warming, part of the effect of global warming is the melting of polar caps, thereby causing the rising sea waters. As such, waters in Davao City would easily, Davao City would easily get flooded because places where there used to be, where water used to be drained from the city are already littered with, are already full because then again, waters have already risen. So ganun. Tama ba akong explanation? What I'm trying to say is, nabaha ang Davao because asa pa man mo adto ang tubig na taas naman daan siya. Take for example, ang Jade Valley. Like, it's a low-lying area. It's not exactly, I mean, there was history of flooding in that area, but not that frequent. But because our rising sea waters, gamay na baha, paspas na siya mosaka. Because waters are rising. That's my point. Do you get my point? You get. You know, sometimes it's hard to just think of something out of thin air. But yeah, ano to siya? Nagasaka ang tubig, paspas mo baha, Jud. Yeah, paspas mo baha, Jud, kay taas na ang tubig daan. So gamay lang na tubig na idungog ana because of strong winds, stronger storms would brought about by global warming. Would cause flooding in the low-lying areas. But aside from that, class, ano pa man ang reason? The world is warming, class. When Pacific Ocean is warm, or when our oceans are warm, it would cause stronger pressure in storms, causing or bringing more water, exactly, typhoon, bringing more water in our lands. Where would this water go? Down to the drain. But if the drains are clogged because of industrialization, then it will stay in the city until it evaporates over time. But Jade Valley, it's a lost cause. Anyone from Jade Valley here? Gamay na ulan mo baha na dalan. How was like living in Jade Valley? Na kay bangka? But anyway, so there, ang engage siya, explore. Provide hands-on experience such as creating a model of the greenhouse effect. Okay. What hands-on experience will you subject your students to as a proof of global warming? You let them go out in the sun, like at this hour. Imagine, I'm not sure, ang classrooms ninyo, are they all air conditioned or not? Oh, good for you. In public school, we don't have air condition except for our faculty, of course. But for our classrooms, my God, it's hellish. So you imagine, you have to discuss, you have to teach students at 2 in the afternoon, where the heat of the sun is at its peak. You can really feel the heat wave. Like, I don't hold classes without my clip fan. I always bring that because I fear I might just end up getting heat stroke. Ganon. So the effect is already here. So that's too much exploration, I suppose. Explain. So provide explanation of the cause and impact of climate change. So this would be the part in which you discuss the specifics. And then elaborate, ask questions like environmental changes, health conditions, so on. And then evaluate whether they understand the lesson or not. Then extend, maybe do you do essays? Yes, sa public school, 60 students, 1 ceiling fan. In fairness naman sa amuan mo, kay pila ang electric fans ako ang classroom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pero my God, dili siya makaya. We a class of 60 students. Tapos Yes, dili siya mo rotate. Gina-focus lang nila sa isa. So, ay nako, it's hellish. Even nako, my God, kainit na ba ani? So, that call for going back to modular classes isn't really just out of the whim of students. It's really because it's so hot in the public schools right now. It's not conducive for learning. It's conducive for heat stroke. There. So that's way more evident. Hold on. So where was I? So yeah, there, evaluate and extend. All right. So we're almost finished. I know all of you are bored. Some are sleeping. Oh, by the way, class, what do you do with your students who are sleeping in class? Do you shame them?
No, sir. It's a big no-no po.
So what do you do?
As for my experience, sir, I do quick recap sa ako ang gidiscuss, or I do match me technique, and so far it's effective po sa ako ang end.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, you can ask them. Pero ako, class, if it's 2 in the afternoon and the madalag energizer girl, like if it's 2 in the afternoon, tingtulog jud siya. And then ani kainit, parang, oh my God. So I actually just let them sleep. My idea is that I'd rather have students who are peacefully sleeping than disrupt my classes. Kaya murag mas okay pa na siya sa kuha. Because when I was in college, pag alas 2 ang klase, magduka po jud ko. No matter how many students we were inside the classroom, lain siya, murag ka ng, oh my God, this is a very unholy hour. So ganon. So I just let them sleep. I've also reached that point in my life in which I don't reprimand my students anymore for the little things. Like I don't nitpick anymore. Parang it's not worth it. You're dealing with 360 students every day, and then parang pag isa-isa ho na nimo siya mahurot ang imuhang energy. So you have to preserve your energy as well. So you have to pick your battles. Anyway, so to create an effective lesson plan in the Philippine setting, teachers should consider the following tips. So we've always stressed this one from the start, that you start with a clear learning objective. Use strategic framework. So either for this seminar, we have stress on 7 E's and 4 A's. Not really much on UDD because it's quite obsolete already. Incorporate hands-on experience, something that is stressed by depth ed. Differentiate instruction to meet the needs of all learners. You have to consider that not all learners are visual learners, are kinesthetic learners, that every learners are different, and use assessment to inform instructions and adhere the lesson plan as needed. Okay, now, sometimes when you create a lesson plans, it's not lesson plans. It's not a lesson plan. It's not enough that you just do it on your own. It's way better when you try to collaborate with others, especially if you're like, there are 3 teachers who are teaching that subject. You have to collaborate with them because what's gonna happen is that this is the lesson plan that you've crafted. If they do the same thing without their input, which I doubt if they wouldn't give their input. We are in the academe after all. We're very critical when it comes to outputs. So definitely this teacher would have something to say not simply nitpicking, but would be able to critique, maybe commend how good the lesson plan is, or maybe add something to make it even better. Integration of technology, yes. In our school, in fairness naman, we all have television. Television inside the classroom. So I don't write anymore on the board. I just use my laptop. You can also use other, I'm not sure, but I think you're all familiar with the different AI tools right now. Like this one I'm using, this is Gamma.app. This is not, so you can actually do that. There. You know, students get interested when they see new things, especially like this one. So there was that. Responsive teaching, adjust lesson plans to address the diverse learning needs and continuous improvement. Always, this is the reason why your principal, your master teacher would always check your lesson plan to see if it's up to date or if it's obsolete. I also feel to mention about localized learning and indigenous learning. Just a quick tip for that. For where was that? For this part. Differentiate instruction to meet the needs of all learners. Localized learning is when you give examples within the locality. Indigenous examples that are close to their ethnic roots. Ganon. So, kunyari, you are teaching what? You are teaching. What's my lesson earlier? Marxism. Okay. You are teaching Marxism to students in Marilog. Do you think that they know who Karl Marx is? Do you think that they would have any idea what the class struggle is about? So you give them examples na close sa ilang heart. So instead of saying the proletariats, the upper class, the elites, the bourgeoisie, you replace those terms with, okay, the proletariats are like your parents, the workers. Trabahante. Asa nagtrabaho inyong ginikanan? Dinhi. Nag-umas sila. Kisa may na nag-iya ng umahan. There. So that is indigenized learning. Also, it's not indigenized though because they don't want to be called Inday. Very petty. Pero let's respect them for that. Continuous improvement. By using frameworks such as UBD, 4A, 5A, and 7E, teachers can create engaging, meaningful lessons. Now, what are the challenges and solutions to strategic lesson planning? Of course, number one, limited resources. Not everyone has internet connection. Not everyone has access to technology. So in this case, you might want to go back to the traditional way, Manila paper and all that. Be creative with this one. But if there is a means for you to provide technology, then it's way better to expose them to modern technology. Sorry. The large class sizes, which I have already mentioned earlier, and the lack of professional development. This is when seminars are only limited to those who are close to the heart of whoever that is. Not everyone in the public school class can be sent to a seminar. So medyo pahirapan po na siya. Sometimes you have to find your own means to get into the seminar. You have to look for ways to just attend a seminar because there are moments, and this happens most of the time. Yeah, there are moments, and this happens most of the time, in which ang ipadala sa seminar is katong close lang jud sa luwag. So that's the reason why not everyone has the opportunity to be sent to a seminar. Yeah, so not everyone has the opportunity to be sent to a seminar, and I think that's sad actually. I, for one, I was sent to seminar last November because parang I was the only UMS teacher sa grade 12, and the topic was about social science, and I'm the only one teaching social science na nasa senior high school, so I was the one sent. But had there been another teacher teaching social science sa senior high school, then I wouldn't be sent to that seminar because number one, my degree is English, not social science. So medyo dili ko aligned sa ako ang ano dyan. Anyway, so to overcome these challenges, teachers can consider the following solutions. Number one, utilize open learning educational resources. Number two, implement differentiate instruction. This is sounds really good in theory, but it's difficult in practice. But it takes a while to get used to it. And engage in professional learning community. Surround yourself with teachers, with people who are whose vision is the same as yours, people in the academe, and yeah. By being creative and resourceful, teachers can overcome these challenges and create effective lesson plans that promote student learning and success. Okay, so yeah, strategic lesson planning is crucial for effective teaching in the Philippines. Frameworks like UBD, 4A, 5A, and 7E models can help teachers create engaging and meaningful lessons. But like I said, everyone, these models class are just modifications of the same banana. Whatever it is that was taught to you in in college, that would still be useful when you're already in the field. You can just modify that depending on the model that you employ for your lesson plan. And of course, effective lesson planning involves steps like identifying objectives, assessing prior knowledge, and designing assessments. We've already discussed that one. Teachers should consider diverse needs because there are different types of learners. Differentiate instruction, technology integration. Please consider technology integration next time when you do your demo. I'm not sure sa practice ninyo, maybe you're still used to Manila papers and all, but most of you would want to land a job in the public school. And mostly naman sa public school na natin class or guys, we have television naman units already installed in the classroom. So less na ang need for the traditional Manila paper, the Bitay Max. There's a less need for that and more need on the knowledge the knowledge of using modern technology and employing it into your class. Teachers may face challenges like limited resources, large class sizes, and lack of professional development opportunities. This is really true. And to overcome these challenges, teachers can use open educational resources, implement differentiated instruction, and engage in professional learning communities. And by being creative and resourceful, teacher can create effective lesson plans that promote student learning and success. That ends my discussion. Any questions? Questions will be entertained now. Please throw in your questions.
Yes, sir. During the during the open forum section po, sir.
Okay.
And that's it. Thank you so much, Sir Emir, for that very informative delivery of the topic. True enough, strategic lesson planning plays a significant role in reaching students' highest possible learning outcomes. Now it's time for your queries to be heard. Do you have further questions and clarifications for this afternoon session's webinar topic? Please let me know by typing on the chat box below or by clicking the raise hand in the Zoom reaction button, and our guest speaker will be glad to address your questions.
You know what? I want to start this the question because I'm really bothered. Were you able to see me all this time while I was presenting my screen? While I was sharing my screen. Was I on the video?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You were on
Really?
spotlight po.
Yes po.
So you saw all those gestures. Oh my God! I didn't even know. I thought I was covered by the screen. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not really used to Zoom. I'm used to Google Meet. It's my first time. It's not exactly the first time, but I'm not used to using it. Anyway, yes, please go throw in your questions. It's quite embarrassing.
Again, if you have further questions and clarifications for this afternoon session's webinar, please type on the chat box below or click the raise hand button and the Zoom reaction button, and our guest speaker will be glad to address your questions. Alright, so it seems na walang mag-raise ng kanilang question. So for those who want to share their key takeaways on this webinar topic, you can raise your hand for you to be acknowledged. Yes, this is worth of 30 pesos GCash.
I have a
Plus,
question to you guys instead. Because I'm under the impression that you took education, and after taking this, after graduating, you all will be trying to land jobs sa public school. Tama ba? Or others are eyeing for different opportunities?
depende sabot sir. Ang uban siguro sir mag-abroad.
Mag-abroad, okay. But this is also one thing I'm curious, because others are really dying to get into the public school system. My question is why? How much do you think is a teacher earning in the Philippines? Like, give me a range.
So far, sir, to answer your question, sir, so far sa ako ang nabalaan karon, according din po sa SG na gina-present is 27K for the grade 11.
According sa...
Ay, 11, ay basta, inato siya, sir. Teacher 1, like ang iyang starting salary is 27 karon na year.
Okay. So aware mo ana na naatay salary grade.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because that's also one thing I want to stress, no, na because people think, especially those who are not in the public school, the teachers are earning 60,000, 40,000. Like, I don't know where they're getting these numbers. For those who are planning to get into the public school system, keep in mind that you will be, ang entry level is T1, that's salary grade 11. So if you wanted to know the salary grade of teachers, please check it online. Just look for the salary grade SG or salary grade 2023 Philippines, and you will see there the matrix for that. Basi naapoy lain sa inyuhan na nag-education lang kay wala sila lain na kurso. I don't know with you guys, but for those who are, I don't know, let me just tell you na walay kwarta ha, dili mo madato sa education. Dili mo madato sa pagiging teacher. So if you think na mo na ning ikadato niyo dili. But if you are someone who has passion for teaching, please pasok sa DepEd na pasok sa public school because we need people who are passionate. Kaya ang teaching is not really just a job, it's a passion. And if you are passionate about teaching, it's like not working at all. So yeah, so you know, it's not a walk in the park.
All right, so someone raised her hand from Delagua, Georgie. You have question po, ma'am?
Yes po.
Yes.
Actually, sir, I wanted to ask you something po. Wording din po sa nakikita ko sa TikTok, why is that there are so many teachers na nag-choose na lang to resign, to murag ka na mubuhi na lang sa ilahang profession, labi na kung mga nakasulod na sa DepEd, sir, like ang ilang experiences is 3 to 5 years. Why is that, sir?
Okay. I remember there was a time in which everyone wanted to become teachers. That was like 20 years ago. Not 20 years ago. Parang sa time, kinsa yata na siya. Time ni Gloria. Because during sa time ni Gloria, nag-increase ang salo sa mga teachers. Commensurate sa inflation at that time. However, right now, it's quite difficult actually because parang you would see these numbers na wow, inana ilang gina-earn. But you have to keep in mind to take into account inflation, and this is just face value. So even there are a lot of teachers who are seeking opportunities abroad because, like I said, when you are a teacher in the Philippines, it's not a walk in the park. It's not a piece of cake. It's very difficult to become a teacher in the public school system. There are a lot of tasks not related to teaching that you still have to cover. So parang the idea is we are really overworked. That's not like you would hear na a lot of teachers would complain na overworked na kami. And the others would rebut na, kahayahan niyo na, mag-imoy summer. Where is summer? We're still working during summer because we are asked to report to school. So, in a way,
Air siya. I'd be using my laptop now na low-bat ako. But I think I'm still audible. Medyo unfair siya sa end na mo na always na lang may ginasubo mo sa lang. Dili na siya related sa teaching. So, also, usually sa mga nadunggan nimo na nga naghawa sa DepEd, these are senior high school teachers because sadly, there are no promotion for senior high school teachers at the moment. The idea, Manggod, is that when senior high school started, most teachers got empty position, if not T3. Me, I was lucky to get T2, but others right now, when they get into senior high school, T1 na lang na sila. So imagine you're only earning that much, and then dahil trabaho, there are a lot of things. Like I said, I'm teaching 360 students, kaya parang 60 students per section on average. Mas daghan pa dyan na sila. So ano siya, overwork. So I couldn't really blame people na mag-abroad na lang. But if you are, like I said, if you are dili ka madato sa teaching. But if you are someone who's passionate to teach, please, padayon ang education because we need you in the department. And also, if you are planning to get into DepEd, I wouldn't really recommend. Nice ang idea sa senior high school because it's like college, pero I wouldn't really recommend you na mag-senior high school at the moment since like I said, walay promotion opportunities. Ang promotion is limited hantod lang sa high school, okay? Elementary high school. So if you wanted to be promoted right away, maglisod ka kung naka sa senior high, naagi hapon. Pero pahirapan. Like, ganun.
All right, so other questions from our participants. So we have from Yis or Sal Rioben, tama ba?
Hello sir, good afternoon.
Yes, good
May
afternoon.
audible po.
Yes.
Sir, kuan lang sir ba? Nakoy question sir about sa kanang sir. Unsa mo ginahimo sir kung example is easy lang ka sa student sir or the student do not respect you po sir?
Okay, when I started teaching in Assumption, I was 21 years old actually. That was back in 2011. My students were my age. So I don't tell them my age at the time, and that was why terror ko sa ilaha because I'm trying to make sure na dili ko maisi-isi kay kaedad ng baya ni. But here in Bernardo, you know, it's a totally different how do you call this? It's a totally different experience. You cannot apply what my terror self cannot be or wouldn't penetrate or shouldn't penetrate Bernardo because mga bata maguni sila na ay katong child protection policy. So that's very protective to kids. So maglisod kag badlong ani sa ilaha. There was a time in which a friend told me na kabalo ka, there is a thing called emotional resignation. What you need to do is just teach your lesson, regardless if they are respecting you or not. So long as nagtudlo ka, then bayad bitaw ka ana, that's fine. But I'm not contented and satisfied with that. What I do right now is that I really let them know who is in charge of the classroom. I'm friendly with students, but I also let them know that there's a boundary that they have to respect. And I'm also the type of teacher na I'm not that type na mag-convince sa bata. Kunyari ang bata kay bugoy siya or dili siya musulod. Nya kanang ganing you have to convince them na you have kanang home visitation, you have to tell them na sulod na lang sa man parang no. If the student has no interest, I would call the parents and then tell the parents that this is the behavior of your kids inside my class. We do not tolerate this. If this behavior, if he does the same thing the next time after we had this forum, then I'm sorry, he will be dropped from my class. So inana na lang, before dili ko ganahan magstorya og mga parents, pero karon parang it's actually a very effective way para makontrol mo ang behavior sa mga bata. But then again, this is not a surefire thing na it would work for everyone because there are just kids who are very unruly. So with that, you try to just not pay attention to them, no? Pero if it really gets out of hand, namatay POD. We can also you can have an anecdotal record for that for the behavior of the student. But of course, you have to talk to them first. Pero ako, di ko lang masurindod sa mga bata. Parang, I would warn them inside the class, everyone. And then if they do the same thing, sorry. Then I have to speak with your parents. You will not be marked present in my class so long as I don't speak with your parents. Ganun. Pero sa inyo I know it would be difficult na adjustment kay pag mag-teach na mo, kaedad-edad lang ninyo ang mga bata. So, you have to remind yourself who is in charge of the classroom. And you can be friendly with the students but set boundaries. Because remember, over familiarity begets contempt. So when they're over familiar with you, magkara-kara na sila, remind them na, excuse me, hindi tayo magka-level. Ganun.
All right, so thank you, Sir Emir. No more questions? Do you have other questions? Okay, so I guess wala nang mga questions. So we will be having the Q&A portion now. So we will be asking questions, and the mechanics is kagaya kanina sa morning, paunahan ng pagsagot sa ating chat box. So those student na okay, we will be asking 3 questions lang po. Okay, so ready, keyboard warriors? Are you ready? All right, so in 3, 2, 1, so here's the question number 1. What does 7E stand for? Again, what does 7E stand for? Okay, this is worth of 30 pesos GCash. Technical team, kindly verify the answer. So we have elicit, engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate, and extend. So congratulations from Elites Deniega Nadia. Okay, question number 2. Question number 2. Which among the 7 E's provide real-world context after discussion? Again, let me repeat the question. Which among the 7 E's provide real-world context after discussion? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go. From Elites again, Justin Wapanyo. From Justin Wapanyo, congratulations. And here's our last question. So this will be the last question. What are the advantages of strategic lesson planning? Again, what are the advantages of strategic lesson planning? In 5, 4, 3, 2, ilan ba yun sila lahat? Again, what are the advantages of strategic lesson planning? So we have 3 advantages. Dapat 3 advantages yung may bigay. Okay, isa na lang yun, ma'am. Ma'am ba ni sir? Ayun, from Elites again. Sir Jeteral, sir pala. Sir Jeteral Jan Abregana, aligned with curriculum, promotes learning, organizes teaching. Again, congratulations for all our winners. All right, so in general, this webinar provided us with the different models in structuring lesson plans and the tips to create an effective lesson plan. As we are nearing to the end of our webinar this afternoon, we encourage everyone to fill out the evaluation form sent on the chat box. Okay, later the officers assigned will be sending the our evaluation. Again, we encourage everyone to fill out the evaluation form sent in the chat box. And now, to recognize the excellence and expertise shared to us by our speaker today, we would like to give this certificate of appreciation Okay, please allow me to read the citation. Certificate of Appreciation is proudly presented to Mr. Emir Arvin D. Rasgo for sharing his invaluable insights and expertise as a guest speaker during the conduct of the 3rd webinar of Edu Kumustahan 2023, a joint program for mental health awareness and educational webinar series entitled Strategic Lesson Planning, the Key to Unlocking Your Teaching Potential, with the revolving theme of expanding support for students' mental health and excellence in educational context, held last May 2, 2023 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. online via Zoom meeting platform, given on the second day of May 2023 at the University of Mindanao Main Campus, Matina, Davao City. Signed, Mr. Nilbert N. Runner, CTE-CSG President, signed also by our Dean of the College of Teacher Education, Ma'am Jocelyn B. Bacasmot, and Sir Arnold J. Ilag-Ilag, CTE-CSG Advisor. Again, thank you so much, Sir Emir.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me and considering me to be your speaker for this afternoon.
And on behalf of the committees of this webinar, we would like also to commend the participating students that showed virtual support and active participation even in distance. So to all the participants here today, you will receive the certificate of participation after filling out the evaluation form sent in the chat box. Okay, let me read again the citation. Certificate of participation is hereby presented to name of student for his or her active participation during the conduct of the third webinar of EduKumustahan 2023, a joint program for mental health awareness and educational webinar series entitled Strategic Lesson Planning, the Key to Unlocking Your Teaching Potential, with the revolving theme of expanding support for students' mental health and excellence in educational context, held last May 2, 2023 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. online via Zoom meeting platform, given on the second day of May 2023 at the University of Mindanao Main Campus, Matina, Davao City. Signed, Mr. Nilbert N. Runner, CTE-CSG President. Signed, Ma'am Jocelyn B. Bacasmot, Dean of the College of Teacher Education, and Sir Arnold J. A. Ilag-Ilag, CTE-CSG Advisor. And now for the updates and announcements from our administration, may we call on Ms. EJ.F. Lugmao, our CTE-CSG Public Information Officer.
Hello, good afternoon, CTE excellent people. I hope this message finds you well and that you have been enjoying our EduKumustahan 2023 webinar series. We have recently concluded our first webinar last April 29, 2023, which was focused on the importance of cognitive, emotional, and social development. Our second webinar, Building Resilience, Strategies for Cognitive, Emotional, and Social Development, was held earlier this morning. And now our webinar 3, Strategic Lesson Planning, a Key to Unlocking Your Teaching Potential, is currently ongoing, and we are delighted to see your active participation for today's webinar, as well as to you, Mr. Emir Arvind Rasgo, for accepting our invitation and sharing such informative webinar session. Now, moving forward, we have 3 more webinars lined up, each tackling various aspects of education and development. We have webinar 4, The Power of Connection, Exploring the Social Dimensions of Teaching and Learning. Webinar 5, Maximizing Online Resources for Effective Research. And our webinar 6, Breaking Barriers, Exploring Gender and Development in Education Context. As always, we value your feedback and invite you to fill out the evaluation form after each webinar to help us improve and tailor our content to your needs. Please note that screenshots of the participants were taken during the webinar, so we kindly ask those who did not attend not to fill out the form. To stay updated on the latest details and information, please make sure to stay tuned to our official channels and keep an eye out for any announcements. We kindly remind you to mark your calendars and save the dates for the upcoming webinars. We promise to provide more valuable insights and strategies to enhance your holistic learning experience. Thank you for your continued support, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars and events.
Thank you so much, Ms. PIO. And to formally close this afternoon session's webinar program, let me call in our ever outstanding CTE-CSG auditor, Miss Jemima Celine P. Amada. A virtual round of applause, please.
Sorry for the background noise. Ladies and gentlemen, students, CTE-CSG officers, and our beloved speaker, good afternoon. Before we conclude this webinar series 3, I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude to all those who have made this possible. First and foremost, I would like to extend my deepest appreciation to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Emir Arvindi Rasgo, who has shared his valuable insights and knowledge with us about strategic lesson planning, a key to unlocking your teaching potential. Your words have taught and enlightened us further about our future career in teaching and have given us a fresh and knowledgeable perspective on the topic. This will be very useful as we continue our journey as future educators. I would also like to thank the CTE-CSG officers for organizing this webinar and for their unwavering support throughout the planning and execution process. Your dedication and hard work have made this a success, and also to our dean, program heads, and faculty. Lastly, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to all our CTE students, teachers, and also visitors who have taken the time to attend this webinar. Your presence has made this series of learning even more meaningful and memorable. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that you have found this webinar informative and enjoyable. We look forward to seeing you again in the following webinar series. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Auditor. Before we conclude for this afternoon session's webinar, let's have our photo opportunity first to be facilitated again by our CTE-CSG auditor, Ms. Jemima Celine P. Amada. Jem?
Yes, press. Okay, guys, I'm back. So, i-on na to. Let's turn on our cameras and let's show our beautiful and handsome faces. Ang magagandang mga ngiti. Okay, let's start with our first slide. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, now for our second slide. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, and for our last slide, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, done na po, press.
Thank you so much, Jem. This webinar session, or this might be the end of our first session of our webinar for today, but we hope that the key takeaways we knew will ignite our passion for teaching, and together let us continue to strive for excellence in the future. This webinar session will not be possible without your presence with us. And on behalf of the CTE-CSG officers and representatives, thank you very much for making it a success. This has been your host, Christine Nicole Idana, leaving you with a quote, "Padayon mga future magtutudlo." Have a wonderful day ahead and may God bless us all. Amping mga ga.
lang ang nabilin. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ay, napa si
May
Katapang.
isa pa po.
Alright. Sige. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, there are only 7 officers remaining, and understandable, no? Because Edward and Sophia na sila ay full day review. I think 5 p.m. pa mo man ilang review. May gaya mo gahapon. Kanotong schedule sa inyo ha, Joy and Christine.
Na
Oo.
press, gikalimtan namin sa mga lecturer.
Igalimtan namin sa mga lecturer.
Diretso na daw
Laban
mag-board,
lang.
wala review.
Final coaching na lang.
Mag-final coaching na ni.
Abot ni sir, gina-message man sa uban. Dili siya. Okay man siya. Abot niya.
Alright, sige. I think availability guro sa schedule.
Ni laag-laag
Well,
mag siya.
anyways, thank you so much, everyone, for your active support, your hard work, and your cooperation for the success of our third webinar. So 3 over 6 na no. Nanatay tatlo ka webinar for tomorrow. We will have the tomorrow social dimensions of teaching learning process. And in the afternoon, we will have a speaker from Luzon, from Saint Dominic College of Asia in Cavite.
Wow.
So kinsa host ana?
Ami.
Tagalog John. Sige, anyway.
Si Ami.
Informat ko si Ami. Na mag Filipino. And of course, I think tomorrow po di yata tong mga from Luzon na participants, and on May 5 atong last na
Wala na
webinar.
man ang Zoom, ang recording ba?
Ay, oo, sige lang. I-stop na ako ang recording ha.